Welcome into the Larsonland podcast. I'm your host, Sawyer Hill, and I'm joined, as always, by my co host, Dylan Bradshaw. If you're new to the show, we come on here every single week and talk about all things involving the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Young Money, Kyle Larson. Reformatting our show just a little bit for the 2024 season. So, on today's show, we're going to talk about the NASCAR Clash at the Coliseum, Kyle Larson's Phoenix INDYCAR test, which took place today, the NASCAR Netflix show that's premiered over the past week, upcoming events for Kyle Larson, and a little bit of a surprise news segment to close off the show. But first and foremost, Dylan, how's it going, man? I feel like we're getting back into full swing with the season. The Clash just took place on Saturday. Was supposed to be on Sunday, but how you doing, man?
Yeah, I've been good. Just excited to get into it. Crazy that it just seems like the off season just flew by. Um, Clash is already here. Then 2 weeks we're already at Daytona, and then back in the full swing of things. Podcasts every week, keeping up with everything. So yeah, it's exciting. Excited for what's to come, and you know what we have in store for the page.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I like the hat, man. Huge make cup cars 1,000 horsepower again, guy. So I like
Yeah.
that. We just so the Clash just wrapped up on Saturday night at the Coliseum. The third year, of course, of that event being at the LA Coliseum. I know we've definitely talked on the podcast before about how we're not huge supporters of that event, and things definitely did not go as planned for NASCAR this past weekend. The race was originally scheduled to be on Sunday night, but the awful forecast for rain forced NASCAR to bump the event actually up to Saturday night. I think that's probably a first in all time for NASCAR to actually move an event up a day. So, a lot of implications of this, Dylan. Do you think it was the right move by NASCAR?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I saw all the posts with the bad weather. I mean, it was like life-threatening flooding. It said like LA was supposed to have catastrophic flooding. So, I definitely don't think it could have drawn it out. I think it was a good move. Obviously unprecedented, but I mean, I do think it was a good move to try to fit it in. All the drivers seem to think so. It did end up being kind of a bad situation for NASCAR. I mean, we talked about it weeks ago when they said they weren't going to open up the Saturday events for fans, and then they got backlash for that, opened it up, and then since the race was moved up, I mean, every fan got free entry. So NASCAR took a huge hit financially because of that. I mean, everyone was free admission. I mean, it just threw a wrench in everything. So the fact that they were able to still get the event, run it, nothing really crucial, no big changes happening, ruin the race or anything. So, I mean, I'm glad I got that in. They got it in instead of waiting who knows how long because we didn't know how bad the weather was going to be. I mean, it could have been weeks and weeks, and they end up racing on some random Thursday, and it just ends up being worse ratings, no attendance. So. I'm glad the fans that were there got to be able to or were able to experience it, and hopefully the people that were planning to go there were able to attend Saturday. But I do think it was a little bit better of a race than we've seen the past 2 years. Like you said, we're not huge fans of it. I'm hoping that it's kind of wrapped up here at this third year, but I do kind of like the whole special event thing. I'm not against them. Maybe trying it at a different venue, maybe even going out of the country. I mean, that's kind of been teased. Maybe going to Mexico. The Mexico Series actually ran after the Cup race Saturday, which is cool, but. I don't know. I mean, I'm not completely against, making a new Clash event in a venue. I think it's cool. But I mean, I'm just not a huge fan of the project of racing at the Coliseum. But we'll see what the future holds, and if they'll renew another date for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, this was the best racing of the 3 years we've had. Unfortunately, it came at a time where there wasn't as many fans in the stands just due to the circumstances. So, definitely hate to see that. We haven't been huge supporters of the event for sure, but we never want to see fans get basically shoved out of an event like that where they can't, maybe they were flying in Sunday morning and couldn't make it to the race. And obviously, they're getting refunds, but if that was us in that situation, we'd be pretty bummed out to not be able to go to the race. So definitely feel for those fans that missed out on it. But Yeah, like you said, the race was a little bit better this year. With the race being moved up to Saturday, heat races were scratched for the event. No last chance qualifier as well. So basically, that last round of practice on Saturday afternoon set the starting lineup for the main event, the 150 lap main event. And Kyle Larson was the eighth fastest car in that final practice session. So that set him up to start eighth in the main event. And for Kyle, this was kind of a deja vu of a clash event at the Coliseum, because 3 years for him, three fifth place finishes, and you could kind of even argue very similar race to what he's seen the past 2 years, where he kind of gets up to like second or so and then falls back a little bit towards the end of the race. I think it was a good race for Kyle. He showed some good aggression, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Toyotas definitely seem to be the dominant cars.
Yeah, I mean, the race definitely was better. I think part of that might have been it wasn't as congested of a field. I know years prior there
Yeah.
were more cars, so I think that lowers the congestion overall, helps make passing a bit better. I mean, we definitely saw passing. I mean, Blaney started dead last with the provisional, ended up. I mean, he had a run at a potential win at a point
Yeah.
in the race. So Hamlin, I mean, winner of the race, he was strong. First half fell back, seventh, eighth, ninth was lacking back, and then I mean he came back, made a strong push. I mean, it definitely looked like it was between Hamlin and Gibbs, though. I definitely thought those were the two that were gonna, win the race. Gibbs, I mean, he was, before that halfway point, I mean, he was what 2, 3 seconds ahead of everyone else. So
Yeah.
his car was just a rocket ship all night. Unfortunately, he had a bad finish. I think he finished somewhere in the teens after, getting caught up there at the end. But it was overall a pretty good race. A lot more passing than we've seen. I'm not sure. I think I did see something that was like the 2023 short track package, and that was like the last race of them seeing that till they debut the new short track package for 2024. I'm not 100% sure, but
Yeah.
um, it, I don't know if that really played too much of a part. I think it's kind of just the smaller field possibly, but I don't know. The cars just really aren't going too fast to really, really not too big of any aerodynamic changes or downforce or anything. I don't think you can really change too much with the cars going that speed. But all in all, successful event given the circumstances. With the scheduling and all that. It definitely was not as bad as I thought it could be with the weather situation, but thankfully we got it in.
Yeah, and with that smaller field too, just the direct impact of that is there was a lot less cautions. I know there was a little bit of a flurry of cautions, right, as the second half of the race started, but as a whole, the race seemed to flow a lot nicer than it has in the past 2 years. And I think you saw that with like you said, Ty Gibbs getting out to a big lead and being able to hit lap traffic a little bit later in the run. So uh, maybe the last clash at the Coliseum. Glad to see it kind of maybe end on a good note in terms of the racing. I know we kind of want to see somewhere else for that venue. You talked about maybe going to somewhere outside of the country. I actually really like that idea of like an exhibition race, doing it outside of the country. I mean, if you're gonna go big and do something like this, why not try and reach a different market, like even outside of the US? I mean, I know that's what their goal has primarily been, to be reaching that LA market and reach new fans, but maybe something outside of the country would be cool. I mean, like you said, even if it's just in Mexico, that would be awesome. But even just going back to Daytona too, you solve a lot of problems by doing something like that, even if it's on the road course at Daytona, where if this race, say that rain was a threat and it was in Daytona, you don't have to move the race up a day to compensate for having to travel and go back to Charlotte and all these things, where if it's in Daytona, everybody can stay there a couple extra days and wait until the rain goes away, or even if it's on the road course, maybe even race in the rain a little bit too. So lots of possibilities for next year. Going to be interesting to see where the clash ends up.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see him. I remember in the '90s they had that exhibition race like in Japan.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty cool. I mean, you're opening it up to a whole new audience. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit here, but doing stuff like the Netflix series, I mean, that's just kind of expanding the audience in NASCAR, kind of opening up to new fan bases. So, I mean, F1, I mean, they kind of have that thing where they're just worldwide, whereas NASCAR is just kind of solely focused on the US as of right now. So, it would be cool for them to broaden it out, and possibly going to other countries to, just try to make it a bigger sport.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be all for that. I mean, it would definitely be a cool experience to see NASCAR like race outside the country. I mean, it's I kind of equate it to watching like the like Bobby Pierce right now running the late model and like what is it, like New Zealand and Australia, and like all the sprint car guys, Rico and Brad Sweet running in Australia. I mean, that's like it's like that crossover where you go and see guys like go race somewhere else. It's definitely cool to see, and I think it attracts new fans to not only the sport but also to the drivers and helping them grow like their fan bases as well. So, kind of shifting gears a little bit, it was right back to it for Kyle Larson today, actually, with his second IndyCar test of his career. We kind of caught wind of this test over the week. Kyle had an interview at the Clash where he talked about doing this IndyCar test at Phoenix on Tuesday, which we're recording this on Monday. He was initially going to run the test on Tuesday, and this kind of went under the radar quite a bit, Dylan. I mean, we didn't see anybody, no big reporters talking about this event at or this test at all, other than Kyle kind of leaking it himself in that one interview at the Clash that we saw on YouTube. So we did learn today that the test ended up taking place today due to the threat of rain in the Phoenix area for tomorrow. So Kyle got that IndyCar experience under his belt, and good to see that going into the month of May here soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if they're still running or not. I sent it to you, Hedrick 5 team. I mean, they posted videos. I'm not sure. It does really seem like super private. There's really not too much media surrounding it, like you
Yeah.
said. I mean, considering in October when he did the rookie orientation, I mean, media was everywhere. I mean, there was videos on Twitter, nonstop. Every single post was about Kyle Larson, Kyle Larson. So it definitely seems more private. I know it's not as huge of a deal as, the rookie orientation program, but considering it's going to be his first time getting into the IndyCar, it definitely is. I feel like there should be a little bit more news coverage around it, but hopefully we'll see something here. I mean, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if they're still running it or not. Hopefully we'll get some lap times and maybe see that, but I'm glad they were able to fit it in because I mean I think the next test possible is what in April, the Indy 500 Open test. So glad he was able to get it in today.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, April 10th and 11th, the IMS Open test, the kind of the final tune-up for drivers before the month of May starts for the Indianapolis 500. And this obviously was a very private test, but some of the details we do know, the whole crew and team surrounding this operation at Phoenix today includes everyone that will be involved with the Kyle Larson Indy 500 effort in May. So, you know, a little bit different from the ROP in October, where Kyle was kind of just with the Aero McLaren team and everybody was kind of pitching in. This is a dedicated effort to Kyle Larson and this program and getting it started for the month of May. So the first trial run really for this team that's thrown together for a single event, and they're going to go and try and win that Indianapolis 500 in May. Big time stuff. Hopefully we get some more details of this event if or this test. If we don't, hopefully, I know some reporters will probably ask Kyle about it in the coming weeks at Daytona, so maybe we'll get some information there. But good to see him out in the IndyCar again, and looking forward to the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, one thing I think that's cool, I mean, we saw him with the rookie orientation program is having someone like Tony Kanaan. He's kind of been his driver coach through all this, helping him, learn the ins and outs and everything, trying to teach him, everything about IndyCar because he's never been in IndyCar before. So having a legend in IndyCar like Kanaan kind of leading the way and helping him out, I think that's definitely going to be a big thing. Yeah, shout out, got the shirt on there. Shout out. But yeah, I think it's really, really big, and I think that's going to definitely help him a lot come May for the Indy 500.
Yeah, I mean Tony Kanaan is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So, Kyle's definitely has a really good tool in his back pocket with Tony and being able to just help him out in this journey. So you kind of touched on it before. The NASCAR Netflix series dropped last week, and I watched all 5 episodes. I've kind of had some time to unpack and think about it. Have you watched any of it, Dylan, or
I
just
haven't
watch
got
clips
the
at bits
chance.
and pieces?
Yeah, I haven't got the chance yet. I keep saying I'm going to, and I just end up not watching. I keep, laying in bed and I watching shows that I already have on, trying to finish those up. But no, I'll have to get to it because I was really, really excited for it when I saw the trailer of it coming out, all the cool cinematic shots and all that. So, yeah, excited for it.
Yeah, and rightfully so, because this is huge for NASCAR and huge for the sport in general, where we've seen F1 and their success with Drive to Survive, their Netflix documentary or docu series, whatever you want to call it. This, in my opinion, is, after watching it, very good for bringing in new fans into the sport. I think that they do a great job of explaining things and making everything kind of make sense for the so to say newbie fan or whatever. I think it helps them out a little bit. But if you're a person like me, or if you're very knowledgeable about racing and you already kind of know what happened in all the races they cover, it does kind of get a little bit like, you already know what's going to happen. It feels like you've kind of seen it before. But the behind the scenes stuff is really cool. The first few episodes really focus on 2311 and Denny Hamlin, so don't like that too much. But not a ton of Kyle Larson in it. But if you are a fan of NASCAR, a fan of motorsport, definitely go and check that out. I think it's huge, and it definitely seems like it's going to be, you know, maybe a second season of it taking place this year, because it kind of just covers mainly the playoffs from 2023.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good for the sport. Like I said a little earlier, I mean, anything to help, broaden the audience, bring in new fan base, just make NASCAR bigger as a whole. I mean, it can't be bad for the sport. I mean, it can only be good. It can only improve it. I do think I mentioned to you, I do think there'll be a little bit more drama this year. They'll kind of focus on some more drama to highlight that in the show. Kind of milk that a little bit for some views, but I'm excited. I need to definitely watch it. I mean, it seems good. We'll see if they'll renew it a new season. I don't know how successful it's been. I haven't seen like any statistics or anything so far about it, so
Yeah.
we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, I mean, I know for the first couple of days at least, it was in the top 10 for like new shows or whatever. So, that's, I mean, that's because it's a positive sign. It wasn't like number one or anything, but I know Drive to Survive is usually like number one when it first comes out, and I think that's actually coming out in a couple weeks before the F1 season kicks back off. But it was good to watch it, and I'm glad NASCAR is making some moves to kind of broaden their audience and have some additional stuff for fans to watch. Uh, Looking ahead for Kyle Larson to his upcoming events, probably nothing new on this for anybody. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Kyle confirmed currently to be running the East Bay Raceway Park for the first two nights of the High Limit Sprint Car Series on Monday and Tuesday, February 12th and 13th. Then that kind of leads into the Daytona 500 at the Daytona International Speedway. And then after that week, Golden Isle, the doubleheader with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series and the High Limit Sprint Car Series, 3 nights of racing action, all culminating on that final night, February 24th, where we will see both series together at the same time. Cool event. A lot of good racing coming up for Kyle here in the next couple of weeks, Dylan.
Yeah, isn't there a potential? I know you said it to me. Like, isn't there like a Volusia race or something this weekend he could race?
Yeah, so before East Bay for High Limit, which is Monday and Tuesday, the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series starts off their season at the Volusia Speedway Park on, I think it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. So a 4 night show for the Outlaws. And I know Kyle said on the High Limit Room last week that Paul Silva was leaving with the 57 and heading to Florida in the next couple of days. So I guess it's a possibility that Kyle could run Volusia. I mean, right now we don't have any confirmation or even really anything to lead us to believe that, other than the fact that we think the car is going to be down there, and um, you know, it, he could run it. I know Kyle's not a huge fan of Volusia. It's probably one of his least favorite tracks in the country, but maybe he'll try and go there and get that elusive Volusia win.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, maybe I could possibly hit that. Volusia's the closest track to me. It seemed like a good track. I mean, I know, like you said, Kyle doesn't care for it, but it seems like a pretty cool track. I mean, at least when we went for the 500 last year, it seemed pretty nice. But we'll see. As far as High Limit's concerned, I mean, there's some new stuff surfacing. You sent it to me. They got some cool stuff like a driver playlist through Spotify that they'll be playing. Selected. They have something about like a pit party after the race, which some people were talking about. Maybe I saw one guy say maybe the pit spots will matter. I mean, yeah, you got Kyle Larson next to you. I mean, at a pit party, it's gonna be a little wild for the people next to him. But you got that. I think it came out last week, like the thing where fans can win, like a driver and a fan, like the dice roll or something like that. They can split cash. So a lot of cool events that High Limit's doing that we haven't seen. Um, you know, World of Outlaws, All Star. No other event is doing stuff like this. So it's really cool. The way that they're going. I mean, they're going to be I think they're going to be the cream of the crop event. I don't know if World of Outlaws is going to be able to hang on for these next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna, totally put the Outlaws down, but I think that the things that High Limit is doing to like start off this first full season is pretty impressive. I mean, the driver lineup that they put together, we've already touched on that, but the additional things to help the fan experience. I mean, those are the things that you kind of want to see to make dirt track racing and grassroots racing grow as a whole. Just being able to improve that fan experience because you go to most NASCAR tracks, I feel like, I mean, I haven't been to a ton, but if you go to like I equate going to a NASCAR track as like the same experience you have of going to like a different like different NFL stadiums where like there's slight differences in different food and concessions and layout whatever things, but like your general experience is kind of the same. If you go to a dirt track, the difference in facilities between one place to the next and the experience you get, it could be vastly different in like how things are laid out. So I think helping the fan experience become like more of like a generalized thing where it's just like everything's the same. I think that definitely it helps out dirt track racing as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's something we've never seen before, and I mean, it's really impressive what they're doing, and I'm excited, to see what's in store. And don't you have a special little segment you were teasing that I don't know about?
Yeah, so I decided today that we're going to start doing a new little segment at the end of every single podcast. I got this idea from Connor Daly and his Speed Street podcast, where he does a random Indy 500 driver of the week on every one of his shows. So we are going to start doing the random Kyle Larson race of the week on all of our shows. We'll basically just pick a random race from Kyle's career and briefly touch on what happened in that race and where he finished. So today's random Kyle Larson race of the week was from May 30th, 2016 at Lawrenceburg Speedway with the World of Outlaws sprint cars. Kyle started sixth in that race and ended up finishing fourth. The race was won by Shane Stewart, who was piloting the Larson Marks Racing number 2 car, which Kyle actually owned at that time. So Kyle, the car that Kyle owned won the race, and Kyle finished fourth. Shane Stewart battled it out with Rico Abreu and David Gravel for the win that night, and Kyle brought it home a respectful fourth place at Lawrenceburg in 2016. So Dylan, unless you had anything else for today's show, I think that should pretty much wrap it up as we head into East Bay and Daytona and a ton of racing here to start off Speed Weeks.
Yeah, that should pretty much wrap it up. Thanks everyone for listening. As always, we're like we said, we're trying to gear up and get ready for the season, and try to change a few things, change some formats. As you can see, some new stuff here presented in the podcast today. Hopefully, everyone likes. So, with that being said, thanks for all the support. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Check out all the socials for any news surrounding Kyle Larson at any point, and we'll see y'all, I guess, Daytona.
Yep, absolutely. So If you're listening on YouTube, watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please don't forget to follow our podcast so you don't miss a thing. Have a great rest of the week, everyone, and we will see you in the next episode.